Hello and welcome to the very first Hoffcast.
The Hoffcast.
We're going to be bringing these to you on a weekly basis, or at least we endeavor to. Every week we're going to touch on a slightly different topic, everything to do with being and experiencing life as an expat or traveler in Budapest, home to some of the finest recreational possibilities the world has to offer, in normal times, of course, when everything isn't completely locked down. Today, to start us off on what we're hoping is going to be a fun adventure of weekly talks and discussions, we've got two of the, I would say, the two main founding members of the Budapest Party Hostel's crew. The
King and the Queen.
The King and the Queen, as we may.
Schmike's face just rolls up like, ooh, I don't know about that.
Okay, let's
queen,
see.
right?
So we have with us Suzanne Collings, otherwise known as Susie, who is absolutely by no stretch of the imagination anything other than what one can consider to be, I think, this is a very, very weird way to I'm trying to work this out.
It's so formal, babe. This is sounds like a speech at a wedding or something like that.
I mean, how would you introduce Susie?
Well, I don't know.
I've known her for far too long to be at all impartial about this. So.
Oh, the matriarch, I would say, wouldn't you say? Like
the matriarch of Budapest
the
party
matriarch
tourism.
Of party,
yeah.
the party industry in Budapest. Which, to be honest, this and we've got Schmike as well, by the way, just over here. He's just kicking back over there, and Schmike and Suze, like these guys, they've had to watch something of theirs, pretty much like just hit the pause button since
COVID.
Since COVID, and these guys, they created this epic hostel, this epic culture around the party vibe around Budapest, which kicked in around 2013? No, before that.
For Retox.
For Retox,
11.
2011. And they had to close their doors not long ago. I wanted to do this straight after that, just to kind of get it while it was fresh. But you've had some time since then. So today we just want to really focus on the impact and the wonder that was that place, and how it came to be, and the stories behind it, and the legends and the madness
Retox Party
and
Hostel.
I mean, you must have so many stories, because when I was here before it was open. No, it was open 2011. I was here 2013, but it wasn't until 2019 when I came back that it was infamous. People would talk about it. I remember I was staying at Bazaar Hostel, and this big tattooed English guy was in the shower as I was jumping in the shower, and he looked so hungover, and he was like, "Oh," I was like, "You had a big night." And he goes, "Yeah, I can drink a lot, but it's only in Budapest for some reason, only in Budapest where I get blackouts." I'm like, "Oh, what happened? Where were you?" He goes, "This place called Retox," and it was the first time I heard about it, and I was like, "Yeah, what's so special about this place?" He goes, "Man, that place, like, if you want to go hardcore, if you really wanted a wild experience, that's the place to go." And that's the first impression that I got of Retox, was that it was just like this wilderness, this wild place that attracted a certain type of adventurous traveller. So yeah, that's why I thought we want to do our first podcast from here, from Hoff House, about the legendary Retox.
In, of course, a context where, caught in the throes of what we're hoping to be the last leg of this pandemic. Many places, many bars, many clubs, many hostels, unfortunately, have lost their staff, lost their locations, lost their leases, and that is the current reality of Retox as well, making it all the more opportune a time to talk about, from kind of now standing a little bit from the outside of it, not being in the thick of running this, mayhem, chaotic mess of wonders and not the most responsible decisions. Kind of take a second to look back and think back to all the stories and all the all the times that hostel saw people experience the best and worst parts of their personalities. We're not going to get too psychological about it, though. Don't worry, these questions are not going to delve into the inner workings of the crazed and drunken party hosteler.
Can you just tell us how did Retox come to Budapest? How did you guys? How did this begin?
Well,
whose idea was it?
I would like to say it was all Sue's idea. She's a legend in the hostel game across the world, and I don't think she gets as much credit as she should. But if you think of party hostels across the world, all of the hostels that she's run and has owned have been in the top 10 of party hostels for the past decade. So that's that discussion over. I think, I'm not sure she's going to say this, her first hostel opened up at the end of, it was during 2008, the last time there was a major, like, world, like, recession, and everyone else was, like, shitting their pants in 2008. I know, I went traveling, and she said, oh, fuck this, I'm going to open a hostel, and this is how I'm going to do my thing, and that's how I met her. I quit my job and I wanted to travel the world because I didn't think I was living a big enough life.
This is the tattoo, right?
Yeah.
This is what was it, 80%?
80% life.
80%.
My older brother he is an engineer. He owns his own engineering firm. And on a phone call one time, he just wasn't impressed with my answers about life. So he said, stop living a fucking 80% life. So I quit my job. I said, that's it. I'm going abroad. I'm going to do something. And I talked to my little brother. I'm like, let's go to Japan and teach. He's like, nah, I've been to China. It's cool. Let's go to Europe. And I'm like, I was going to say yes to anything. Mm-hmm. Let's go. And then I met Susie on my trip.
How did you meet?
What
was the moment? What did you...
Oh, I'll tell you the moment.
Yeah.
I was in charge of our trip. It was me, my brother, and then our friend Lisa was meeting us here in Budapest, actually. So when I got to a city in Europe, before we did anything, as soon as we checked in, this was before like smartphones or anything. You had to go to a place that had internet, like an internet cafe.
Like an internet cafe,
or maybe the hostel had it, maybe. But honestly, most of them didn't. So I'd be at an internet cafe, and as soon as we checked in, I would book the next place for a week later because that was my deal. I'm staying here for a week, whether it's good or it's bad, because I want to see it. Like I'm not a flash packer. I'm gonna see the whole thing, good or bad. Sometimes it was great, sometimes it was shit. Regardless, I was in Split, down in Croatia, and I get into an internet cafe, and I write to her. I was looking for hostels. It was always on Hostel World.
Hostel World.
That's how I looked for everything. Hostel World, and I would always just read the, like the write-up for the hostel. Mm-hmm. And I remember reading this and going, oh, fuck. It's like I wrote it. It was like, do you want to meet people? Are you crazy? Or you want to be yourself? Do you want to get drunk? Do you want to have party? Do you want to have fun? I was like, no one had written anything like this. Every hostel in 2008 was saying, do you want a comfortable bed? Do you want a nice place to be able to meet fellow travelers? Like,
and see all the best sites and
fucking,
the best locations.
Of course I do, dickhead. This is exactly why I'm traveling. That's of course I want that. But what else? What's the extra? Susie gave the extra in the write-up. So I wrote to this hostel. It's called Carpe Noctem. I wrote the hostel and said, hey, I want to stay. Me and my brother are coming, but our friend is also going to show up. We want to stay for a week. And this is going to be the second week of August 2008. What are the opportunities? She writes back. Again, I have to, it was pretty quick because I'm still at the internet cafe there, I think, when I got the answer. And I was like, okay, good news, bad news, bad news, but good news. And I was like, this is great.
How drunk were you when you were responding?
Not even.
Not even a little bit?
You know what's great? I said that and you both knew it, Susie. 100%. That sounds exactly like her. So, good news, we can definitely accommodate you guys. Bad news, you're not going to be in the same room for every night. You're going to have to move. Good news, it's the wildest week of the year because there's a festival called Sigeron. Bad news, it's the most expensive week of the year. But good news, it's going to be the fucking best week of your life. You're going to love this place, man. You're going to have a great time. You're in. And I read that and I was like, wow, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. So we got on the longest train I've ever been on, from Split to Budapest, a 19-hour train. It's no, so yeah, well, 2008 it was.
Yeah, they restarted it a while ago, didn't they?
They're about to restart it again, and I think they're probably going to do a better job. So this was a 3-car train that was an overnight. And by the way, for everyone, I am giving the quote sign overnight. So we get on it at like 8 o'clock at night and go, great, we'll be there by morning. So you have a jug of water, a couple of sandwiches. It's not overnight. It's overnight plus 12 hours. We rock up at 7 p.m. in Budapest, like a full 19 hours later after getting out of this train. We haven't been able to. There's no food car. There's no water. In fact, there's a sign across every like water spout that says, "Don't drink this. Like you're gonna shit your pants and die." So it's like, oh my god, water ran out. Hour 3, like 16 hours, no water, no food. I'm just looking out the window like, this is not the Trans-Mongolian. I'm just going to Budapest.
There, right?
We get to Budapest, and this is weird for a lot of people. I met the nicest bus guy of all time. I get on a bus from Keleti. I get out, and I'm like, I have to go here. And he's like, all right, just stand next to me. I'm like, wow, okay. He takes us, and he gets us to Octagon, and he points up, and he goes, up there. And I was like, thank you. I didn't realize till later, like, that's just too nice. That's unheard of. That doesn't happen in Budapest. No one does that. We met the nicest bus guy of all time. So we walk all the way there. Again, this is over 20 hours, no showers, stink like shit, haven't eaten, haven't drank anything. Go up to the hostel, top floor. My friend's already there. My friend Lisa, who we're waiting to see. Wow. We're going to meet her there. Me and my brother, we're going to meet her there. Get to the top of the stairs. I open the door. It's a long hallway. At the end of the hallway, my friend's sitting on the couch. And as I walk in, Susie steps around the corner. And I never met her. I had no idea what she looks like. But I knew that was the person that had emailed me. I ran up and I gave her a hug before I gave my friend a hug. It didn't matter. She was the one that I cared about seeing. And that's it. At that point, I pledged my life to like this place. And the rest is a long story, but I came back because of that moment. Like, everything is that first impression moment. And I think in hosteling, it really matters. Someone who takes you from a vulnerable, I don't know a shit about shit, I need to feel comfortable. Someone made me feel incredibly comfortable, and I go, that's it, I'm in, 100%.
Suze, come a bit closer. Come on, I want to ask you a question. Like, what was it that sparked you wanting to do something different with hostels? If everyone else is writing these descriptions about, well, you want a nice bed, and what drove you to actually want to make something different? Did you, like, you must have stayed at some hostels in your travels and things like that. So what was it how did you come up with something different?
I remember meeting this chick after a Jaeger train in Retox once, and she came up to me. She's like, oh, Suze, I hear you're the owner, I hear you started this stuff. I've got to say, like, I'm so impressed because I've been studying marketing and hospitality and blah, 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 all these things. I'm like, cool, wish I'd done that. And she's like, I've got to say, you really nailed it, because so many people make the mistake of just going, I want to do that, and therefore I'm going to do it. And you obviously haven't done that. You found a niche in the market and you created this business around it. And I was like, no, incorrect. I just did me and hoped there were people who wanted to drink tea and then beer and shots and later wine with me.
Start with the tea, then the beer, then the shots, and then end up with the wine. This is
this evolution.
But did you ever stay or go anywhere that you thought, this is what I want to take with me? Like, this is what I want to make myself? Or did this really just come from yourself?
I think a lot of people, Yaz will confirm, in business or entrepreneurship, is when you are so frustrated with the absence of something or the problems, you're like, how is this true? And I was in Bratislava. I was there's a long walk from the hostel we're staying at, which I'm not going to mention, from the train station to the hostel. We get there, it's like summer, so we're sweating, backpack on. Everybody who's traveled to a hostel has had, as Schmeich said, this vulnerability of where you're coming from. You don't know the journey they've had, an experience they've had before. No one knows where they're going. You cannot, for sure, definitely trust the cab drivers. So you're on your own, public transport. You don't get a nice guy saying, stand with me, I'll show you the way. Your journey is the struggle. That's the point in travelling. You have to make it work. So we rocked up, and there's a receptionist passing on to a receptionist. We're there with the backpacks on, sweating, and he's doing a stock count of the 6 beers that are in the fridge. I'm like, the 6. Like, give me the paper. The 6. I don't know how many were when you came in, but there's 6 now. Come on. And he made us wait. He didn't look at us. He didn't say, excuse me, I'm so sorry, we're going to count 6 beers. Oh, sorry, did I say 6? I should know that. I should write down 6. Actually, we're fine. They didn't talk to us, and I am a little bit ADD, a little bit like impatient. I'm like, what is going on? Why am I waiting for this? Half an hour waiting before like they even interacted with us at all. And then it's like, here's your key, there's your room. Like, cool, love it. Loving his vibe. So I think it's not so much what I wanted or what I brought from other places, it's what I didn't want. Like, I don't want people to show up and feel like you're not welcome. Like, please, you're on a journey. You've obviously had like, Carpe Noctem's 100 stairs up.
Yeah.
Up! 100
with heavy backpacks.
Yeah, so even
possibly
that journey,
dehydrated after a 19-hour train
yeah.
ride.
If you're a party person, definitely dehydrated. Even if whatever.
It's tenuous though. You get to the top of the stairs, you have one opportunity because they've walked 100 stairs.
Oh, that definitely.
You say the wrong thing. That's a 0. You get a 0.
And it's a residential building. There's no sign on there because at the time it was a heritage building. You couldn't put a sign on there. The regulations, everything was a struggle to get to Carpe. So when people got there, it's like, please make them feel welcome, like that. And
how did that happen? What was your way of making people feel welcome? Like, what was there like a tradition or like a
yes?
I've I know this is kind of skipping to the end, but I think over the time, certain people get burnt out in the hostel game of constantly meeting new people. But for me, I'm like, you never know who's behind that door.
Yeah.
Who's behind that door? It's like a surprise Jack in a Box every time. Like, who's going to be there? Because, when Shmai went to the door, I was like, ah! And I remember, oh God, these guests were leaving and they'd stayed. For now, it seems crazy. It was only a few days, but I really, really fell in love with them, these Canadian guests. And they left, and a girl called Imka came through the door. And I was in tears because my guests were leaving. And I was so upset about it. And she had spent, I don't know how many months, researching which hostel she was going to stay at. First hostel ever. Researched it. And she checked the reviews every single day to make sure that we weren't faking or we hadn't lost it, right? So she comes through the door and I'm in tears because I'm saying goodbye to these people. She's like, what the hell did I do? I walked into some funeral home or something. She's been one of my best friends for the longest time, and she stayed in 2008. But you never know who's going to walk through the door, and that is the beauty of it. So come in.
That's the thing.
What were for you? This is actually one of our questions that we have. So far we've kind of been talking about Carpe Noctem, or the original Carpe Noctem, the original Budapest party hostel, back at the time when Budapest wasn't really discovered yet. It hadn't really been put on the map. Certainly not for the party tourists that ended up coming over the years. 3 years later, fast track to 3 years later, and you had started Retox. We haven't really talked very much about like that whole journey from opening your very first hostel to meeting these amazing people like Schmeik who helped you kind of like build it and grow, to then 2 years later opening 2 hostels in one summer, 2 big massive hostels in 1 summer.
Weeks, yep.
This was Grandio and Carpe Noctem Vitae. Yep. Originally it was called Penthouse Hostel and then got changed to Carpe Noctem Vitae, and then now more recently renamed to Vitae Hostel, whatever. Anyway, and then 1 year later, finally the legend of Retox was born. Founded.
How'd you come up with the name?
How did you come up with the name of Retox? Yeah, I mean,
we didn't. Our friend Sam Shepard did.
Sam Shepard.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, when you hear, there's only been one time in my life when I heard a name and I go, oh, that's it. That's
no more discussion. That's it.
Because she was talking about having her parents were talking about going on a detox. You know what I mean? Like you got to take care of yourself. Like going on a detox. She's like, oh man, I've been on all these detoxes. All I need now is a Retox. And we heard it go, oh, that's the name of the hostel.
We were fucking hammered in the Balaton, right?
Yeah.
It was the staff appreciation, but back then there weren't so many staff, so we were just appreciating ourselves. It's good.
Yeah.
On the Balaton, you appreciate that.
I mean, there's a lot of things to
come up with
appreciate
that.
about Balaton, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So Sam Shepard came up with the name of Retox.
Yep.
But let's talk about the concept, the idea of Retox. What was your idea and your vision for Retox when you first started it?
I don't know, like I don't want to say out, I don't want to speak out of turn, but like our idea was not what it was.
Yeah. That's what I was curious about.
Sure.
Like,
we at this point we had Carpe Noctem, we had the now as people would know it Vitae, we had Grandio. Grandio was the wildest place.
The first party hostel in all of Hungary.
Yeah.
All
The
of
first
it.
place that didn't have a curfew.
And
noise curfew.
everyone said, don't do that.
Yeah.
Everyone. When Susie was opening it, she asked me to be the first manager there. I was super excited, but everyone told her, don't do this. And he was like, yeah, we're going to do this. Like, it's going to be fun.
why were they saying don't do it?
Yeah.
Because there is a stigma with party hostels that you're only going to get stag parties. You're only going to have people want to come in and destroy the city. People who, and in the industry, you know that there are some people who add to an experience and some people who take more than they give. And I think the stigma with party hostels, you only have guests that take more than they give to a city, to the culture, to everything. So they're the kind of stag groups who come in, and there's always that one guy in a stag group who says out loud, we're gonna burn this fucking place down. They always do that. There's always that one guy, and when you know how to handle it, it's fine. You can sort that out. But that's the mentality that they come in with, and everyone thought that that's what a party hostel was until Susie opened one here, and then it was different. There's still that, but there's so much more to it, and I think people forget or don't know about the other side of it, which is the beauty of it. But Grandia was the first one in the country, because everyone was too afraid, but she wasn't.
And Grandio just gave this, I don't know, just crazy new lease of living. Like the difference between Grandio and Retox is, I think, what Retox became, and how I describe it to people is, Grandio was people were 18 years old, they've never experienced anything before. They came to Grandio, they're like, this is living. This is absolutely everything. Like, I cannot believe I'm allowed to get away with this. Retox was more like people who had done that shit, right? Went back, earned some money, went, fuck the real world, I'm still going to go back to that. It was like this, like regressing of adults, like people who knew full well better and went, nah, going back to that. So it was a conscious decision. But when we opened the hostel, because we looked at the market, Gaz, you'll appreciate this, is you have to look at the market as what does the market need? Not like that chick before. Now I know, okay, we can't split the market between everything. So you've got Carpe Noctem, which was 22 beds, solo travellers, that intimate, like everybody gets to know everyone, go out at night, but you sleep, chill, right? And then we opened Grandio, which was this feral, beautiful jungle of, too many stories for another day, surely. Not that I'll ever come back to a podcast, but
We'll see about that.
And the Vitae, which changed so much from, like, the concept behind Vitae was, if we were so held back by Carpe with the noise and the neighbours and the space, what if we had this place which was,
completely insulated,
penthouse, 2 levels, oh my god, it should be the best house in the world, blah 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 blah. And then after that we thought the Grandio may be taken away from us at any one point, because it is a 1-story, 2-story crumbling sandcastle, and the owner was like, any one point they can take this away from us, so it's gone. Do we want to lose it? Well, obviously we don't want to lose it. Retox, the opportunity came about. I was skeptical because I'm like, I don't want to split the market share. I think that Grandio is such a great thing. If we have Retox, it's going to split it. The idea was going to be, it was like this hipster place. Like when hipsters were cool. if anyone remembers that. I don't know. But we had our good friend Johnny. He was doing stencil workshops.
Johnny.
Mishi, he was AeroPress coffee. There was some hipster shit going on. I was like, it's not really me. But that was going to be it. And then our good friend Christian, I think he changed Retox for us. Christian Smith.
Where's Christian?
He put us on the map because of I think a guy who was traveling around, who was doing a daily video update, like of his travels. He ended up creating a website. What was it called?
Besthostels.com, I think.
Yeah. He every morning he'd wake up and do like a vlog basically from his bed, and he did every day at Retox, and he just vlogged massively about us, and he just put it out there, and that was it.
Was it the first Retox tattoo?
Might have been the first Retox tattoo. He definitely had one. I'm not sure if it was the first, but he was one of the first.
He got a Retox tattoo.
Yeah.
First of the Retox tattoos.
I think he was, I think we all knew. Was it
Big Winge or Christian? I'm not sure.
I think we all knew that we were part of something that was like different, that was special. And I think he recognized it when he came in. And sometimes you have to be from the outside to walk in and be like, holy shit. And he had that attitude about it, and he adored it.
Yeah.
And he vlogged about it every day. He ended up creating a website down the road and that would habitually put Retox at the top of his hostel list for party hostels. And as his vlogging grew, other people started to notice it. Obviously, the reviews were great, the stories were terrific, and he kind of jump-started like the name to be a thing out there. And then
it just changed to be this Aussie.
Yeah,
it was definitely the Australians came in, and then, you know the Aussies. They're like, oh yeah.
All right, mate.
Are there any limits on language on this thing?
No,
right? Suck shit, can. Like, fucking can. And that's when Retox changed. I was like, well, okay, so it's not a hipster hostel.
There was definitely, when Susie opened up a hostel, I got the chance to work at every one of them except one of the private places or whatever, but. We would go into the brand new place, and as the new kid on the block, even within an entity that's already, kind of there, Budapest party hostels, you got to earn your keep. So every place you go to, you have to be bigger and crazier. And then Retox was the first place where we would sit people down and like, we're gonna have a bit of a powwow today. We're gonna talk about this. How are we crazier than everyone else? How do we one up everyone? And that was our deal every single day. How do we become famous? And not famous like, oh, we want everyone to see us. We want to be crazier than everyone.
Infamous.
That's it. So, listen, in the beginning, there was all different kind of like bullshit things that didn't work out. That building, we lied to everyone that stayed there for the first couple of months, and we told them it was an old psychiatric hospital and that we had taken over. And then, so there were rooms called First Aid, that had like demonic mad scientists. We were like,
really?
Yeah, we were like, oh, it's an old psychiatric hospital. So we thought we would just go with it, and that was it. We just left it, just leave it like that. Don't tell anyone the truth ever. Because listen, there was no one promised you tomorrow. It's really like the way life is. No one promises you tomorrow, man. And in the hostel game, this really felt like no one does party hostels. No one wants us here. Well, fuck them. We're gonna do whatever we want. We're gonna try and be crazy, and we did. And it was like we'd meet every day at the staff, and I'd say, there's 12 people in house. Okay, what's the craziest thing we can do today? How do we get everyone downstairs? What can we do? What can we film? What can we? And that was it. Every day became a little crazier, with the idea that no matter what, it meant that everyone who stays here is a part of it. This is like family. This isn't like we put on a show for people. If the people who live in the hostel are not your family, or not your friends, you've already lost. So that has to be number one. We're all friends, and it's us versus everyone. We got this bubble. It's just we're crazy. We're Retox, and Suze will tell you every single hostel she's run, they have a chant. They have a hand sign that goes up. Everyone has their own thing, their own nomenclature, their own way of speaking, their own call signs, because you have to have a tribe. And it made a huge difference. And when no one wanted to be a party hostel, Grandio and Retox became tribes. And they were different tribes. And I think what you said is perfect. Grandio was the first place you've ever stayed at. And Retox was Neverland that you got to go back to. It's Neverland with a bar. It was pretty great.
Yeah, it's literally the only thing that was missing in Peter Pan's Neverland was a bar, a fully stocked bar that sells moonshine. I feel like the Lost Boys would have become a whole lot more lost if that was the case.
Also true.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about, speaking about the tribe, the tribal nature of party hostels, and especially the party hostels that you guys ran?
Oh, yeah. Let's get some more.
This is actually one we didn't even think about when we were sort of like brainstorming ideas for what to talk about here. But do you want to talk a little bit about the rivalry that kind of that kind of developed between Retox and Grandio?
Was there a rivalry that kind of came up with that? And when did the rivalry...
Not towards the end, I don't feel like, but I think there was definitely
it
a
had
time.
to be squashed.
Yes. You got to tell the story of the Hostel Wars.
Hostel Wars.
I'm not going to tell individual stories unless Susie prompts me, because her memory is better than Hermione's. But I will say, when
Suze, could you...
This is exactly how you build a great tribe, is that you have to have someone to fight. So what's the point of having a tribe if there's no one to fight? So this is, unfortunately, I'm not going to take credit for starting wars. I don't want to start a war, but every hostel I've worked in for Susie, I always said, fuck the other hostels. We're better than they are, and we have to show everyone in the world that we're better than they are. Being crazier, being more fun, doing more social media. Like, I wanted that every place I went. And that was only to get people excited to do the extra bit. Because working in a hostel is you wake up, you clean beds, you clean bathrooms, you're mopping up spew and shit and cum and all kinds of shit, and then you're on the piss for the rest of the day, and you're trying to get laid at night, and you're trying to show people the greatest part of the city. Like that's your life from literally you wake up to go to bed. Wow. So that extra bit is like to prove that we're great. It's a lot to ask for people, but if you want to be someone in this game, you have to show everyone else that you're going to go the extra mile. So Hostel Wars unfortunately came about of saying, yeah, are we the same family? Sure. But, like, I've got brothers. I love my brother. But fuck him, I'm better than him. I'm going to show everyone I'm better than him. And that's kind of how it started. It's not good for business. It's not. Wait a minute. It's not good for friendships. It's only good as far as securing your tribe and saying, like, we're a thing. So I as much as I hate, like, hostel wars, and I don't think they're good for business, I think they're good for business. I think they're good for emerging businesses, because sometimes you need to say, fuck you, older brother, like, I'm the new kid.
Didn't you try and sell your brother once?
I tried to sell my brother as a younger child. Doesn't matter, that's a different story.
How much did you ask for?
Free. It's free. Fuck that guy.
That's not selling, that's just throwing in the trash.
Is this on eBay?
Exactly. I was young, I didn't know salesmanship. Still don't. But no, to be honest, like, listen, in the early days of Retox, I remember sitting around with the crew, and I said, fuck Grandio, fuck Vitae, they're not us. We're crazier than them. What are we doing today? And for all the bad that it caused with the Hostel Wars, the good, I thought, was worth it. Bad was negligible. Hostel Wars is different because a war takes two sides. Mm-hmm. So if you say, fuck Grandio, we're going to be crazy, and then Grandio goes, well, we're going to cut into your crazy.
If we leave the courtyard, yeah.
This is the problem. So, like, when you have two factions fighting against each other, that's a war. It wasn't the war that I wanted. A war would have been, a good war is like an online battle. Where, like, we're crazy, and then you put a crazy video up, and then you one-up us. Wasn't like that. It was stealing. It was kidnapping people. It was fucking bad.
Wait a minute, what?
Fish in bed.
So we're talking
fish in bed, like real live fish.
Like fucking can of tuna in someone's bed.
Oh, mate.
Stealing Eddie. We never saw Eddie again.
Yeah, he got kidnapped.
Who was Eddie? Was this a human being?
Eddie was our janitor.
Well, let me just put it this way. Eddie worked at Vitae. Eddie was kidnapped. We never saw Eddie again. It wasn't
did you know about
positive.
this?
No, this is the first that I'm hearing. This is the first that I'm hearing.
Hostel Wars.
Sure.
Was it a period? Like, was it?
It's periodically.
Yeah, but it has to be stopped. Here's the thing about the war takes the war. No matter what you do, as fun as it is, and the stories are funny, the number one, the only person that loses in the war, the number one person that loses is the guest. Because you have staff from rival hostels fighting each other, and they're not taking care of the guest. They're not bringing the guest into it, which means they're losing out on the experience. And when we saw people like not bringing people in, they're just fighting each other.
The most recent hostel was Grandio was brilliant because Grandio would bring their guests in. They're like they had
into the war.
into the wars. Like we're gonna attack.
It's a new age warfare.
Retox. Come with me.
If you're here, we can't be back.
Did you ever send spies and like or moles? Did you have moles?
Of course.
Did you literally have moles working for the other?
It was war.
It was war.
You kidding me?
What's a war without moles and spies?
Dude, this is a whole episode we need to do on
I
the
think we're
Hostel
gonna
Wars.
have to do another episode later on the
You
hostel
want to
wars.
get Gemma for that?
Yeah.
Oz,
We'll bring some deep
Rio.
moles. No, of course. Yeah, you're fighting against each other. There's when you don't know the terms of the war, so you just want to win. And by the way, no one knows what winning means. It's just like,
It's a bizarre
how
thing. 'Cause
ridiculous
as
can we
Schmeich said,
be?
like you're creating a community, you know, and his idea is like, okay, we are the tribe. We're us. It's awesome. So you're trying to make this community. You're trying to make sure that everyone feels like they're part of the greatest thing, and then the tribalism, as you know, this has caused many issues in the past as well. But you're also solidifying that tribe and that community and that family and that friendship, and that's the flip side. The beauty of it is the strength that you bring from that. Like it's unbeatable.
Yeah, there is that. So it can kind of strengthen your unit within the hostel itself that you're running. But then fast forward to later on that evening when you're all supposed to be going out together as, you know, a chain of hostels, not just as individual hostels, to, you know, a boat party or on a pub crawl or a two party. And that's when you have people butting heads out in public, drunk, with guests around that they're supposed to be taken care of on the pub crawl or whatever, and they're too busy having fights amongst each other because of this feudal tribalism that, you know, has developed in the hostels. And that's I think definitely where I have to agree with Schmeich. The person who loses out at the end is the guests.
Definitely.
You know, because it tarnishes the experience that you can give your guests if you're too preoccupied, you know, fighting amongst yourselves. No matter how much of a really tight-knit unit it creates within the hostel, like once you leave the bounds of the hostel and then, you know, it's warfare, you know, like you're out on the front lines, and that's when it really, really, really can kind of
But
damage things. But
do you know how many guests in the midst of those fights have Vitae tattoos or tattoos who are like, eat shit, motherfucker, and they have a Retox X on their chest? Like,
If you
so this is
lined
where
up,
you say it's bad for business, but it's also good for business.
I think the hostel game is about creating memories for people. When you travel, no one says, not about memories, definitely not about that. It is. It's like one of the number one things. So if you go home with a X tattoo, which is the Retox logo, as a Band-Aid that's in the shape of an X on your chest, you go home. Man, that story is there forever. That's the greatest thing. You can talk about a hostel word. That's not a bad thing. Like, mistakes are mistakes if you don't have a story. Otherwise, it's a great story. And I think we provided a lot of fodder for stories. And so, Hostel Wars was awful. Again, for a business, don't do it. Don't do it. But also,
If you do,
gonna
make sure you get some stories.
well, here's the thing: if you're going to have multiple arms on the same business, let's say you're running bars and you have 4 or 5 different bars in the city, it's competition. I'm American. I'm sorry, competition's a big deal for me. And every time I went into a new place when I was working for Susie, I said, "That's it. Fuck those other places. It's us." Because competition, you know. So I think competition's great. Can it go wrong? 100%. Has it? Yes, 100%.
But at least you got some great stories out of
There's
it.
some great stories.
Guys,
Some great stories, so...
the people who like the clientele, the culture around Retox is so massively like wild, right? How did you did you ever get to a point where like we've gone too far?
Yeah.
Like this is like it's grown beyond us. Like how do we
out of
keep
our control now.
it's out of our control?
How will we ever rein this?
Was there ever a moment where you were like, wow, this is like what the fuck? How did this happen?
What was that moment?
Yes. Do you want to tell a story about a certain foam party?
You mean the one where we had to carry a guy out because he nosedived into the foam pit thinking that the
foam would support him.
ground underneath the foam must have been made of marshmallows
And
and,
he snapped his neck.
unicorn
He
farts.
broke his neck.
Oh
He
shit!
did
Yeah,
not
it was
break
his-
his neck, did he?
Yes, he did, and he came back.
He
4 years later.
Oh yeah, I remember you introducing me to him when he came back afterwards. I was like, mate,
That was
oh my
his
god.
first night traveling.
I remember seeing him being carried out. I remember seeing him being carried out and like just blood coming down his face, and someone told me what he did, and I was equal parts shocked and just shocked.
Yeah.
Number one, at the sight of it, and number two, at the utter stupidity.
Yeah.
Knowing that he was standing on solid concrete, and the only thing that could be underneath that big vat of foam was more solid concrete, and he decides to nosedive into it. I'm just like, mate, you know what? I have no words, and so I think, yeah, I mean, there definitely does come a time when you realize that, damn, I set all this up, I filled it with foam, you know, like, I brought in all the UV lights, there's fucking balloons up in the air, and I thought it was going to be a great party, and someone just ruined it by being an idiot. So, what would you say that moment was for you? Because that was my moment, but what was your moment?
That direction on my redirection. Smite?
I have more than one. I have dozens.
I bet.
I have at least 5 or 6 moments where I thought, my life is over. This business is over. We're going to prison. So, do you want the first one?
Yes, come on.
Sure. First one that comes to mind.
The first one was the first time I painted a guy from neck to toe in spray paint, black spray paint, and almost killed him.
Jesus Christ!
So we had this thing back in the day called street justice. So if you fucked up, like you're an asshole to somebody, street justice. You have to do something that's equally bad to you, the offender, because we're a community, right? So our friend Aaron, he's a miner in Australia. He's like a 6 months on, 6 months off travel guy. He was here. Our friend Milk pissed in his bag, drunk. Pissed in his, rucksack, basically.
All over his jeans.
So the next day, I walk into Retox, and they're like, street justice for Milk. I'm like, what happened? He tells me, like, what are you going to do? They're like, we're going to spray paint him. We're going to tie him to a pallet, and we're going to drag him through the streets. And I'm like, okay. I don't think the punishment...
Who came up with this?
Aaron, who had his bag pistoned. So I said, I don't think the punishment fits the crime. It's a little heavy. I'm not against you painting him, but I think tying him to a pallet and dragging through the streets a little too much, because also it draws a lot of attention to us. I don't think that's good for us out in the city. So, let's do the first part. So they tied him to a chair. They tied him to a chair, and they got spray paint, black spray paint. They spray painted him from his neck to his toes. Halfway through, he pissed himself, and that wasn't weird because he would get drunk pretty early. He's from Hawaii. Milk, great guy. Great story about why he was called Milk, but that's another story. He started pissing himself. We were all laughing, and he had this kind of nervous laugh, so he just laughed along, and none of us thought anything of it. And then they finished the spray painting. Again, neck to toes, every part of him. Except he was wearing underwear. They let him wear underwear, little underwear. He got off out of the chair after he pissed himself. He crab walked through the bar. It was hilarious. We took photos, and then all of a sudden, he was really woozy. And we're like, that's not drunk woozy. That's weird woozy. So
Weird woozy.
I Googled, is spray painting a human bad? And it was definitively bad. Toxic. So I freak out. I bring in Kyle Malone, who was my number 2 at the bar at the point, at the hostel, was managing the hostel. And I'm like, this is bad. We need to get this off him. I call Susie, and I'm like, this is bad. I fucked up. This is a bad deal. We spray painted Milk. It's toxic. He's getting weird. But it's okay. Me and Kyle are going to rub him down with rubbing alcohol, and it's going to be okay.
Oh, shit.
How drunk did he get from being rubbed down with rubbing alcohol?
Well, here's the thing. We went to the pharmacy. We got a bottle of rubbing alcohol, which is tiny, not much. And Kyle's like, "It's the best I could do." I'm like, "Fuck, let's go." Take him upstairs. We strip him down. We throw him in the shower with the water on, and we just start rubbing him down. 2 adult males rubbing down a kid, spray painted from neck to toe in black spray paint with rubbing alcohol.
Did you take a photo?
I took a photo of him
somewhere.
running through the bar, and I was like, that's super cool. He looks like he's made out of black volcanic glass. We almost killed this motherfucker. So we rubbed him down, and then Kyle stayed with him all night. to make sure that he didn't die, like, because he was like shivering and cold, and it was like feeding him water because like it's toxic, like it's
The same
awful.
guy put a
You still wearing
tampon.
clothes? Were you still wearing clothes in the shower?
Yeah, we wore clothes.
Okay.
They stripped down. They thought they'd put on some.
There was no. It's funny. There was no point that I thought, let me take my clothes off in the shower. It
that's
felt
kinda
right to
weird.
keep the clothes.
But like Milk also put that tampon into rum and put it up his butt, called a rum pon.
It's called a rum bum.
Rumpon.
Yeah, rum bum, whatever.
Well, we met our friend Bear. His name's Marty. So there's a group of guys from the UK. What's the
Like
UK?
Jackass.
Yeah, what's the UK version of Jackass?
Oh.
I don't know what the name of them are.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
He was their manager. They're called like the Wild Boys or some bullshit like
Yeah.
that. But they were way more wild than the Jackass guys, you know.
Yeah.
So he was their manager. I'm like, I've never heard of them. And then one night, because he's staying at Retox, he shows us his videos where like they have a Thai prostitute underneath the table that's just sucking off one of the random guys while they drink beer, and you have to guess who it is. I'm like, oh yeah, this is way more hardcore than Jackass. And he's like, I don't get into it. These are just my friends from high school, so I'm like their manager. And he's like, but we used to do rum bums. Like, I don't know what a rum bum is. He's like, oh, you don't know what a rum bum is? He's like, give me a shot glass with rum. And anyone got a tampon? And then he took the tampon, he drops in the shot, and he goes, let me show you. And he put it up his ass. And he goes, and that's a rum bum. I'm like, dude, that's ridiculous. I'm never going to do that, but thank you. And then we got a snake of 15, 20 people giving each other massages.
Yeah.
We did a massage snake, like where you massage the person in front of you, the person behind. We did that. We turned around in 20 minutes. We massaged each other. It was real fucking weird.
Did you close the circle at one point? Where
No.
like everyone's massaging someone
Not
else?
that night.
No?
I don't know if we did it another time, but I just remember Marty with the rum bums who, we did a big massage. He was awesome. We didn't kill him. He was great.
We didn't kill Milk either.
Oh, no, yeah. We didn't.
This is gonna clear.
Just to clear.
Although
That guy
she was
survived.
passed out
We haven't
one
killed
day, and
anyone.
Jesus, nickname, draw around him, fucking like he was dead. He was not dead.
Suze, what was the most spontaneous, wildest, like something like that you remember happening? Like something that just came out of nowhere.
Oh, you can't ask that kind of question.
Why not?
There's
'Cause
so
we
many.
can, but like, yeah.
That's the problem with questions like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Because there's so much.
that's the number one question people ask when they come to a party hostel. What's the craziest thing you've ever seen? And I always have a stock answer because
Oh,
I can't
tell you.
actually think of the craziest
Tell that
thing
one.
because nothing seems crazy when you live that life. You guys are in the
Yeah.
bar. Like, come on, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen? Crazy to you is on a different scale than crazy to people who live a normal life. So I'm always like, I saw two guys dressed up in matadors, and one of them started sucking his friend's dick at the bar. It was pretty dope. He was getting married, by the way. Like that. And then I saw a girl get her ass eaten out at the bar, and the bartenders had no idea what was happening. And it just kept happening. Like,
that night
I
with
saw
the-
someone smoke their own pubes.
Yeah.
Like, there's...
The night with Gush, right at the end of the night, it was like so late, and then she's like, "Yeah, I'll pee all over you," or someone pee all over her, and then there was sweet and sour sauce being licked out of her fucking. belly
Why do
button.
you tell people about your pee experiences?
Oh, my pee experiences.
Well,
I
because
don't
this is actually good. So so everyone knows Movember, right? The mustache thing. We did a bunch of years of Movember, but it wasn't really Movember. We would raise money for different charities. It started with Movember, and everyone had to. If you worked for the hostel, you had to put something up, and it had to be crazy because we're crazy people. So we had a run of people who would say, "You can punch me as hard as you can in the face." Like there was that. There was people who get eggs thrown
Oh
at
my
them.
God.
That was a big one, and
That
that's
was bad.
by the way, don't do
Don't
that.
throw eggs at people.
Don't throw eggs at people as hard as you can. It's awful. We had a guy who was like a professional, what's the
Fucking cricketer.
cricketer
Yeah,
throwing
we didn't know
eggs.
he was going to be there.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And he
Kiwi
threw it
guy.
at our friend, and all of his friends kept buying him eggs to throw at our friend, and my friend's bloody by the end. It was awful. But he took it like a champ because it's charity. Anyways, there was all kinds of things put up. We had a guy who was I can say this almost very confidently, he was definitely an assassin. He worked for the military. He had tattoos all over his body, like the same kind of like almost if you stamped him. But he wasn't. It was. And it felt tribal, it felt Maori, but it wasn't because he's a super white guy. We're like, what are those? And he's like, I've been in the military for whatever. And on the right side of my body, the stamps are good kills. The left side's bad kills. Ones I feel guilty about. Like
Jesus.
kids or some bullshit. And you're like,
What?
oh, that's pretty heavy. He traveled with a medic. The medic was there, but by the way, who knows if this is true? They both did the same story, right? And they came in with like fuck you money for hostel people, which is like, I'll buy the whole bar shots. I'm like, okay,
Wow.
that's a lot, but okay, they did it. The medic's like, yeah, I'm just here for him. Like, if he gets injured, I life flight him out. That's my job. I'm like, oh, okay, this seems legit. He said, I'll do a striptease for anybody, you know, whatever. He put it up, and he made us. In fact, the medic won. The medic spent 100,000 forints to win, and then gave it away to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, it was that kind of a thing.
Wow.
They were brilliant, but back in the day, we all wanted to be a part of it. Everyone had to put something up if you worked in the hostel. Susie had famously said that she could drink anything as long as it had
A shot of amaretto.
a shot of amaretto in it. And
And I was like, fuck it, I haven't put anything up for charity. I'll drink piss. As long as there's a shot of amaretto in it, I will do it.
Fuck.
And
You
I
Bear
wish I
Grylls
could
it.
say that was only 1 year that I did it, but I did it 2 years.
by the way,
Who's piss?
Hang
Your
on,
own?
wait,
lots
wait.
of people.
Lots of people.
No, like the
What,
first
cocktail
like
of
a piss
piss.
cocktail.
A piss
The
cocktail.
second year, yeah, there were 3 people's piss in it.
Not,
Wait.
by the way, ask how much. How much piss?
Yeah, but like a shot?
Fucking
No.
A
Fucking
pint?
pint.
A pint?
Okay, I have to ask a question that I'm sure is burning on everyone's
Was
mind.
it hot or cold?
Of course, it's warm. Let's go.
Have you ever heard of cold piss? I mean, do you think they put in the like
You can
what?
freeze it.
Like, it's
I'd be
like
concerned for our
Who-
guests if their piss
who
was
would
cold.
happily put
They
We gotta
a-
get you to a
they
doctor.
pee and I drink it. That's what happens.
So what did it taste like?
Pee. It tastes like amaretto. It was fine.
Was it
and then
lemony? Was it sour?
afterwards, you're like, oh, there's pee in my throat.
Like, was it different the first time to the second time?
Yeah, of course. There were 3 people's pee the second time.
Hey.
Yeah. Different people have different stuff going on in the pee. By the way, we use Di Serono. Shout out to Di Serono, who's
Yeah,
sponsoring
oh
the
my God.
podcast. That's the
I'm so
amaretto we
proud.
used.
He got
Di
me into
Serono.
Serono.
Were they well hydrated?
Didn't matter.
Fine, people.
Di Serono's brown, so it made the whole thing look brown. But it was a glass of piss. A glass. The
Did
first
you,
one,
did
I don't know
someone
how
video
big.
this? Did you, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, because somebody
Sure.
came back and said I have a video of you drinking piss.
I'll say this when you put this out to anyone who listens to this, if you have pictures, videos of any of the crazy shit that happened in Retox, please send it back, because here's the hardest part about doing this. We never wanted to record a lot of these things. You wanted everything to be kind of insular because you didn't, like, boy, imagine watching that somewhere else with no context.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. When you're there, you totally get it. And I know it sounds ridiculous to say someone drank piss, but the amount of money that Susie raised with that is staggering. It's hundreds. I mean, we've done thousands and thousands of pounds for charity
Wow.
because of these ridiculous things. And it's only because of the goodness of people doing stupid human tricks. People love that shit. So if anyone has this stuff, please send it through. We've
Fuck
missed
yeah.
a lot of these things. I've only got random stuff left on my phone or old Google Dropbox kind of things
Yeah.
that we get to see every now and again and go, oh yeah, oh, and it's such a part of it's just out there in the ether, and we would love for people to send more of it, but it's just not a lot of it. It's kind of I don't know. It's like this. It's meant for podcast. We can talk about it, but it's an oral record of the thing. We don't have much to prove anymore. So unfortunately, if you don't believe us, I mean, eat shit. It happens.
Did you guys want to take a little break quickly, or just recharge our drinks, or...
Yeah,
Nearly an hour
I
in.
wouldn't mind.
Yeah,
mind.
I need more
You guys
drinks.
are down?
Yeah.
I'm only drinking water. I feel awful.
Fuck yeah, let's go and
Need
do that.
booze.
Oh, we got...
Alright.
a quick city break. So we'll pause for now.
Quick city
Yeah.
break.
Yep.
Let's
Yep.
do a pause.